Okay, so let's talk about this. If you're leading a technical team, even if you're not called a project manager, well, you're dealing with project management stuff all the time, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Delivering work, managing expectations, guiding the team, it all draws on those same ideas.
Right. So the idea here isn't to turn you into a certified PM overnight.
No, not at all. It's more about giving you some core concepts, some foundations to help you, guide those technical projects more effectively, make things clearer.
Makes sense. So when a new project lands on your desk, where do you even start? What's step one?
Well, the big thing is understanding the why, really digging into the business goals. What are we actually trying to achieve for the business with this project?
Uh-huh. If you don't know that.
Yeah, if that's fuzzy, making technical decisions later becomes, well, really difficult. You don't know what you're optimizing for.
Okay, so understand the business driver. Then how do you know if you've actually succeeded? How do you measure that?
That's where defining success up front comes in,
Yeah.
and it needs to be measurable.
Like what? Give me an example.
Could be user adoption metrics, maybe
Yeah.
performance improvements, like did we cut latency by X%,
Mm,
or sometime, direct revenue impact.
got it. So tangible results, setting that target early.
Exactly. Gives everyone something clear to aim for.
All right, so we know the why and what success looks like. Next up seems to be getting into the weeds, the requirements.
Right. Requirements gathering. This is all about asking good questions, the classic who, what, when, where, why, how, but also digging deeper.
Uncovering assumptions.
Precisely. And a really key question to ask early, like super early, is how will we know when we're done?
Ah, the definition of done for the whole project.
Yeah, exactly. It forces clarity on what needs to be delivered for the project to be considered complete.
And that sounds like it feeds directly into defining the scope.
It absolutely does. Defining scope is basically drawing a line in the sand. You clearly state what is part of the project.
And just as important.
What is not? You have to explicitly say what's out of scope. That's your main defense against scope creep, where things just keep getting added on.
Right, managing those expectations. Okay, so we understand the goal, we know what's in and out. How do we start figuring out the how, the effort involved?
So now we're into planning and estimation. A really useful technique here is the work breakdown structure, the WBS.
Breaking it down.
Yeah. You take the big, daunting project and decompose it into smaller, more manageable chunks. Like an e-commerce site might break down into user accounts, product display, checkout, things like that.
And then you estimate those smaller pieces. I saw mentions of things like story points.
Yep, story points are common. It's relative sizing, like, is this task small, medium, large compared to others? Or using numbers like the Fibonacci sequence 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. It avoids getting hung up on exact hours too early.
What about ROM? Rough order of magnitude.
That's more for, like, super early, high-level guesses. This feels like maybe a 2-week feature. Very fuzzy initially.
And time boxing.
Time boxing is different. You allocate a fixed amount of time, say 2 weeks, and aim to deliver the best possible outcome within that fixed time. The time is the constraint.
Okay, and it sounds like a crucial point is not treating these early estimates as promises set in stone.
Definitely not. Early estimates are best guesses, full stop. They get firmer as you learn more, but initially, they're fuzzy. You also need to think about dependencies, how tasks connect or rely on other teams. That impacts schedule and risk.
Right, which brings us down to the really practical level, turning all this into actual tasks someone can work on.
Exactly. Actionable tasks. Something one person, or maybe a pair, can pick up and, actually do. Like create the database schema for user profiles.
Or implement the API for adding to cart. Specific.
And ideally not huge. You want tasks that can be estimated and completed in, say, a few hours to maybe a couple of days max.
Why so small?
Big tasks are just hard to estimate accurately, they're tough to track, and honestly, they can feel demoralizing. Smaller tasks give you momentum.
And each task needs its own done criteria, right?
Absolutely critical. Just like the project, every task needs a clear definition of what finished means for that specific piece of work. No ambiguity.
So you're handing off clarity, not just work.
You got it. And thinking about who gets which task, considering their skills, maybe their learning goals, that's part of it too. Good task breakdown just makes everything flow smoother, easier to manage, track progress, everything.
Okay, so we've covered quite a bit. Starting with the business why, defining success metrics, digging into requirements, and that crucial definition of done, setting clear scope, breaking things down with the WBS, different ways to estimate, and finally creating those small, actionable tasks with their own clear done criteria.
Yeah, and you can see how they all kind of connect, right?
Yeah.
Even just getting better at one or two of these things, like being really rigorous about scope or defining done for tasks, that can make a huge difference in how smoothly your technical work goes.
It really makes you think. So for everyone listening, consider the very next technical task you plan to tackle. How could spending a few extra minutes to really clearly define its done criteria change how you approach it and maybe even how quickly and effectively you complete it? Something to ponder.